Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Up Next. Now, when I come back with another video, hey man, say man, look, shout out to the Flight Mike, man. Without the Flight Mike, man, this video wouldn't be possible. Make sure I go over there, make sure I support him. We got Anthony Davis just changed everything. I'm assuming for the Mavericks. Let's get straight into it. Let's get it. Let's go.
Fast in his determination to want to return this season, maybe as soon as next week. There are people within the Mavericks organization that have tried to talk him out of it.
But for me personally, coming here and being on the floor and doing what, I'm supposed to do and play basketball. So, made it out the game safe, injury-free.
It's been a while since the Luka Doncic trade went down, and while Luka is shining next to LeBron in LA, the Dallas Mavericks have had almost everything that could possibly go wrong for them go wrong. It seemed like everybody on the team got hurt, including their brand new superstar duo, Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, and they couldn't buy a win unless one of their random young guys had a 25-point game. However, things are finally starting to turn around for a disgruntled Mavericks team, and there's one man responsible for it: Anthony Davis. After a month, Davis finally returned from his abductor strain that he suffered in his first game as a Maverick, and he's been an absolute difference maker. This team is winning, and they're winning consistently. But how? Before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to get the latest NBA news. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. 1212. What's going on, everybody? Anthony Davis is back, and Dallas is absolutely feeling the effects of his return. Since the trade, the Mavericks are 4-1 when Anthony Davis touches the floor. After their one loss was their most recent game against the Brooklyn Nets, where Klay Thompson shot a whopping 3 for 12 from 3. It took Davis 5 games to lose in a Mavericks uniform, and the craziest part about it is that AD has been on a strict minutes restriction since his return, which is another reason Dallas fell to Brooklyn. Due to this, his numbers don't jump off of the chart since he's been back, at 14 3-points, 6.8 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game, but his presence is felt more than arguably any player in basketball at this time. And if you don't believe me, let's take a look at some of these plays. For example, in his return game against the Brooklyn Nets, Jason Kidd let Anthony Davis play all over on defense, but here he's on an island in the paint where he plays his best defensively. Day'Ron Sharpe is going to come up with the ball, with Davis being the only thing between him and the rim. He has Jaden Hardy next to him as well, but at 6'3" and less than 200 pounds, Sharpe could bully Hardy to the basket. Instead, he sees Davis in front of him and panics, dishing the ball to Tyrese Martin all the way back at the perimeter. Martin drives baseline with an easy lane to the basket, except there's one problem. Anthony Davis is yet again in the way. Martin realizes that early and puts up a terrible low percentage floater off the glass before he even meets Davis under the rim. Martin looks scared on this shot, and Anthony Davis didn't even need to do anything. His defensive presence alone is enough to force bad shots, and that's one of the most valuable aspects.
Did you know you could be entitled to a 5- or 6-figure
of AD's game? Compare that to this play from the next night against New York. The Knicks have the ball in half court, and the ball is going to make its way to Karl Anthony Towns in the post, who has inside position on Max Christie because he was manned up on Cat for some reason. It's cool to have a guard like Christie force the ball over his head if there's an elite big in the paint ready to pressure said big as soon as he catches it, but Dallas didn't have that here. Instead of AD down low, Dallas had Kai Jones running the 5, who does apply pressure but is far too small for that pressure to mean anything, allowing an easy back cut to OG Anunoby, allowing him to play bully ball on a frail Klay Thompson for an easy layup. AD's lack of presence in this clip gave New York an easy look that would have easily been prevented with Anthony Davis defending down low, and that's especially clear in the box score, with Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby combining for 61 points on 58% shooting from the field. Those two were absolutely dominating Dallas's minuscule front court, and with Anthony Davis, we have yet to see a game where that happens. The fact that Anthony Davis has this much of an impact on them winning at a high rate when he plays is insane, because this Mavericks team is terrible. Not only that, but they're absolutely beat up.
Daniel Gafford goes down last night with a knee injury. Lively's been out with an ankle. PJ Washington has been out with the ankle injury. Even, Caleb Martin, even though I think he had a hip injury, if I remember correctly.
Over the last month, it looked more and more like the basketball gods are out to get Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks after the Luka Doncic trade, because their players have been going down left and right. I mean, it was to a point where a few weeks ago, it was looking like the Mavericks might have to forfeit games because they didn't have enough active players. Do you realize how insane that is? You're allowed to roster up to 15 players during the season, and Dallas almost couldn't muster up 8 to play a basketball game. After Davis's injury, Dallas legit had to go sign Kai Jones to a 2-way contract, who was a laughingstock not too long ago after going bald and basically pretending he was Michael Jordan. Funny enough, actually, Jones has been arguably Dallas's best player since he signed, and that's saying a lot considering he's averaged 12.1 points per game. It's been that bad for Dallas. Since Anthony Davis got injured in games where he doesn't play, Dallas is 6-13. However, they're somehow still a play-in team, and now that they have Davis leading the way, they look like a team that could potentially give someone fits in a 7-game series. Dallas currently sits 2 games under 500 at 37-39, and with only a handful of games remaining, they're a game and a half above the 11-seeded Phoenix Suns for a play-in spot. If they manage to hold on to this spot, which is looking likely with Davis at the helm, they have the potential to win 2 play-in games and find themselves facing off with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round of the playoffs. Despite their historic record this season, OKC is still a young, unproven team with little to no playoff experience. The only player on their squad with real playoff experience is Alex Caruso, who won a championship with Anthony Davis and the Lakers in 2020. But other than him, nobody else has even made a conference finals. Jason Kidd is a good coach, and with Anthony Davis fully healthy, playing 35+ minutes per game like he usually does, Dallas could find a way to win a few games. Now, I don't know if they have the firepower to beat them in a full series, especially with Kyrie Irving out, but Anthony Davis wouldn't let them get swept, and I know that much. And even if they don't make the playoffs, there's still more hope in Dallas than people think.
We don't have to have that uncertainty no more. This will work. Jason Kidd is very familiar with Anthony Davis. I'm excited to see what him and Kyrie Irving is going to do.
I know it seems like the end of the world for Dallas Mavericks fans right now, but you've got to remember this isn't the only year you have Anthony Davis. AD is under contract until 2028, with a potential player option in 2027, but I don't see him opting out of $62 million at age 34, especially not with his injury history. Dallas managed to put together a very well-rounded roster around Luka Doncic, one that was built perfectly around him and his playstyle, and I don't see why Dallas can't do the same for AD in the next 3 years. When you have one of the best players in the world on your team, despite how the rest of it looks, you are not a bad team. Give it time and let's see what Dallas does around AD, because this could become a very competitive roster in a few years. Maybe even next year if Kyrie Irving comes back the same player he was before he got hurt. Now, is this me saying the Mavericks won the Luka Doncic trade? Absolutely not. I still believe it's one of the craziest and most lopsided trades in NBA history due to the sheer fact that Dallas traded a generational superstar entering his prime. However, I don't think that this trade killed the Mavericks like a lot of other people do. It could though, if Nico Harrison continues to make moves that ruin his franchise. Despite all of this talk about how good AD is and how competitive the Mavs can be around him, Dallas still has one major problem, and that problem is that Nico Harrison still has a job.
Oh my God, this Nico guy is going to survive? He just has a lifetime job?
He's got multiple years left on his contract. In the aftermath of that trade, I remember I came on here and I said, we'll judge this trade in the next few months. This trade is dependent on the Mavericks.
I switched from due dates to due dates, and it made me go from
far. And
Mavericks fans have been calling for Nico Harrison's head ever since the trade, and I really don't blame them. Not only did he manage to trade the most untouchable player in basketball, who's averaging 27.5 points, 8.6 rebounds, and 7.9 assists per game on the 4th-seeded Lakers, but he also traded Quentin Grimes for Caleb Martin, which wasn't an insane deal at the time, but looking back at it, it's rough. We made a video right away when this trade was made, and I immediately said this was a horrific mistake. Grimes is averaging 21.8 points per game as a Sixer this season, and has been the lone bright spot on an otherwise tanking team. Meanwhile, Caleb Martin is averaging 4.6 points in only 8 games. Oh, and he's also making $10 million a season over the next 3 years. Every single bad move that Harrison could have made this season, he did. And unfortunately for Dallas Mavericks fans,
you know how bad it gotta be if you're doing bad and people know how much money you make. They like, bro, you only scored 9 points in the NBA and you making $10 million. It's like, bro, I'm in the NBA. That's tough, man. Next video though, y'all.